New this morning, Iran warning Israel there will be larger attacks on its territory if there is any retaliation after yesterday's attacks. Also, Iran sending a message to the U.S. Bases will be targeted if Washington backs any Israeli retaliation. Joining us now is Evelyn Farkas. She's the former senior advisor to the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia, Ukraine, and Eurasia, and former senior fellow for the Atlantic Council. Also with us, former CIA and Department of Defense Chief of Staff Jeremy Bash. Welcome to you both.
Welcome. Jeremy, I want to start with you and pick up where Richard Engel left us off last hour, essentially talking about the root of what we saw yesterday goes all the way back 2 weeks ago, 13 days, as Andrea Mitchell noted, to the attack, an Israeli attack on Iran in Damascus. Why would, at the point in time that we find ourselves in the world with Hamas at Israel's doorstep, why would Israel take such a step? And as Richard Engel suggests that folks in the region have noted, is that what Netanyahu wants is the wider conflict with Iran. What say you, Jeremy?
Well, Simone, there's a view inside Israel, and I think inside many in the U.S. national security community, that Iran really is the reason why there's been so much instability in the Middle East. So if you look at not just the October 7th attacks, where, of course, Hamas is a proxy of Iran, receives funding from Iran, but also all of the violence perpetrated by Iranian Shia militia groups against U.S. forces, killing 3 U.S. troops back at the beginning of this year, attacking ships via the Houthis in the Red Sea. Iran is really the reason why there's so much conflict in the region. And so Israel is saying we got to kind of go to the head of the snake, and the head of the snake is the leadership of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. It's the same reason why the United States, under the previous administration, took out Qasem Soleimani in December 2019. But in that case, I think Iran believed we can't take on the United States. They're too formidable of an ally. And I think they believe that Israel may be on its back heels from the perspective of international public opinion. And so they've done something unprecedented here. They've launched attacks against Israel's homeland inside Israeli territory. We've never seen that overt, massive attack by Iran against Israel before in history.
I will note senior U.S. officials coming into the Biden administration, we were doing all these kind of briefings, and everyone would say the same thing, that Iran is the greatest threat to the United States.
Evelyn, National Security NSC spokesperson Kirby, who was on Meet the Press with our colleague Kristen Welker, and she asked him about what has transpired in the past 24 hours. Take a listen.
What's your response to Americans who see those missiles being intercepted in the skies overnight and believe that this has already escalated?
I would ask the Americans that saw what happened last night to take heart in terms of the military capability of their forces in the region, how they are defending themselves and defending our interest in the region. And also, I reiterate what I said before. Know that the president is working the diplomatic side of this personally.
It's that last piece from Kirby that I want to pick up on, the president working the diplomatic side of this personally. Your sense of what that looks like, the resources that the president has at his disposal?
Yeah, Alicia, I mean, we know right from the very beginning, from going back to October, when the attacks occurred on the Israeli people, launched from Gaza by the Hamas terrorists, who, of course, are Iranian proxies, that right from the beginning, President Biden wanted to make sure that the conflict that was coming, because, of course, we knew Israel would have to take action to root out those terrorists, he wanted to make sure that the conflict would not spread further. We saw Iran's proxies, though, spreading the conflict. We saw the Houthis trying to cut off maritime commerce in the Red Sea. We saw Hezbollah attacking Israel. But all along, if you paid close attention to what the administration was saying and doing in terms of putting U.S. forces, stationing forces in the Middle East, surging forward there, if you will, mostly on the sea and in the air, we were essentially saying to Iran, keep this at a low simmer. And just one other point, back in January, the Israelis assassinated a high-level Hamas leader in Lebanon. And at that point, we were really afraid that Iran might take action like this, or maybe not exactly like this, but Iran might take escalatory action. And actually it didn't. The word, according to press reports, was that Iran told its proxies to cool it, and they decided not to take action at that point in time.
Jeremy, you had the Russian foreign minister calling for restraint after this attack, noting that we express our extreme concern over another dangerous escalation in the region. Russia's foreign ministry said in its statement on the Iranian attacks, we call on all parties involved to exercise restraint. How do you assess the Russian assessment of this matter? Do you think they're just going to sort of hold back? Are they going to lean in? They're going to sort of get in Iran's ear a little bit and say, okay, you guys just need to bring it down a notch? How do you see Russia playing a role to some extent in this?
Great question. I actually think Russia has zero credibility. They've gained a lot of support from Iran. In fact, many of the drones on the battlefield in Ukraine are Iranian Shahed drones, some of the similar drones that Iran launched last night against Israel. And I think actually Russia prefers Iran to stir the pot in the Middle East. It takes world attention away from Russia, Ukraine. You see, obviously, this Ukraine bill stalled on Capitol Hill. Russia's kind of enjoying seeing that play out. And as far as Russia's concerned, they would much rather have the United States and the international community focused on a conflict between Israel and Iran than the conflict in Ukraine.
That makes a lot of sense, because you have this idea now that this space is narrowed and moved in a different direction away from the pressure to bring dollars to support Ukraine. And so Russia doing a little profiling here and saying everybody needs to settle down, and the U.S. don't get too headstrong. Iran, don't you get too headstrong, trying to play that sort of middle space when they're really kind of happy that they're not getting the pressure.
I mean, it is, Evelyn, on the point that Jeremy just made, you have President Zelensky of Ukraine, who tweeted about the drones. He said Ukraine condemns Iran's attack on Israel using Shahed drones and missiles. We in Ukraine know very well the horror of similar attacks by Russia, which uses the same Shahed drones and Russian missiles, the same tactics of mass airstrikes. There is a story that posted around 1 a.m. in the Washington Post this morning that talks about the drones that saturate the sky over Ukraine looking for any movement. And as every day goes by that Ukraine has not received the aid from the supplemental package, and just to be clear, the aid is money that would go to the Pentagon to buy weapons that are made in America to send to Ukraine, they slip deeper and deeper into peril on the front lines.
Yeah, Simone, this is Zelensky clapping right back at the Russians. He's like, yeah, you guys don't want escalation. You guys are the ones who are working with Iran on all of this. I mean, frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if later we found out in the history books that Russia was tipped off about the Hamas attack, maybe not exactly on the date in October when they launched it, but that the Russians were more than happy to let their Iranian friends and the Iranian proxies do what they had to do, or what they thought they had to do, vis-a-vis the innocent Israeli civilians. So, Russia has blood on its hands. These missiles are also being, the drones are also being manufactured now in Russia. So the Iranians not only are giving drones to Russia, but they've helped them set up factories. The Russians, I understand, have actually made those drones even better. The Ukrainians, I was there 2 weeks ago, and we felt the barrage of drones and artillery. So this is very real every day for people in Ukraine, this Iranian drone threat.
Jeremy, I hope you will take this question in the spirit in which I am asking it, which is, who, if anyone here, believes they benefit from regional escalation?
Nobody believes they benefit from regional escalation except for, I think, the leadership of Iran. I mean, Iran believes that for internal purposes, if they can focus on an external enemy, the quote-unquote Zionist enemy or the great Satan in the United States, then that potentially fortifies their leadership. I mean, they are autocrats. They rule over a population of people who don't want to be led by the theocracy in Tehran. And so there have been revolutions, there have been green revolutions, there have been other demonstrations in the streets. We know the treatment against women by the Iranian regime. So I think, they need an external enemy in some ways to keep and maintain control in Iran, and they're picking on the smallest country in the region, the American ally, the country that sort of doesn't fit in with the other countries there, and they believe that's going to maybe fortify their regime. But it's not going to work because America's got Israel's back, and these defensive measures thwarted this attack almost completely.
Evelyn, the president is convening the G7 partners today and conversating with them to update them. Also, I think, to put together some level of diplomatic response and maybe some level of coordination over the next week. How do you assess, what we may see coming out of that conversation with our G7 partners?
So it's sort of, Michael, related to the couple of questions you guys just asked, because I think that Iran actually doesn't want this to escalate. I don't think, just like the January episode, this time they used an attack directly on Israel, which is escalatory. But remember, they said, okay, we consider this now done. We're done now. And so now the worry is, what is Israel going to do? I think that the administration managed to convince Netanyahu, fingers crossed, because there were thankfully very little in the way of casualties. I think just one injury, that Israel will not escalate, will not strike back directly at Iran, hopefully. But I think the G7 needs to really buckle down and get this situation under control. So I think Biden's saying to our allies, listen, we need to provide assistance to Ukraine. We need to provide assistance to Israel. We need to provide assistance to Taiwan. All these things are interconnected because the bad guys are working together. It's not just Russia and Iran working together. China's helping Russia with its war effort, and of course, North Korea. So it's really important for the democracies of the world, the strongest economies, to stick together and work diplomatically to resolve this, use our military deterrent and our economic power to do so as well.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.